Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Vegan Spirituality Online Gathering. My name's Lisa Levinson, and I am one of your hosts for this evening's show. And what we do together is we explore veganism as a spiritual practice. And I'm the director of the Sustainable Activism Campaign for In Defense of Animals, and we provide emotional and spiritual tools for animal activists. So we're thrilled to have you with us tonight. We're going to share a wonderful interview, and I will let our co-host, Judy Carmen, who's the author of Peace to Well-Being, she's going to introduce them in just a moment. But first, I want to let you know that if you're interested in this concept of vegan spirituality, you're welcome to visit our website, which is veganspirituality.com. You can also access that through idausa.org /events or sustainable activism. Either one of those will get you there. And we have in-person meetings all across the country where people meet and explore veganism as a spiritual practice together and via different potlucks, and also inviting speakers in, just like we're going to invite in today. And this online webinar is for folks who are located in different areas, or it's more convenient for you to join us online. So we're thrilled to have you with us today. Without any further ado, I'll let Judy take it from here.
Hi, everybody. It's good to have you here, and we are so thrilled, Lisa and I are so thrilled to have Christopher and Sara Oakley, the vegan warriors, here with us tonight. So get ready, because this is going to be a great interview, and these kids are right on board with everything we're doing, and so I know we're going to learn a lot from them. Little background, they have one mission in mind, and that is to create a compassionate, connected, global community of happy, healthy, and balanced vegan change makers. Together, they started the first digital platform designed to help vegans ignite inner transformation, which we've talked about how important that is, so they can cultivate a deeper sense of joy and meaning while elevating the world. In 2017, Christopher and Sara launched the Vegan Warrior Academy to share their compassionate vegan lifestyle and years of professional training in a variety of fields, including herbal medicine, life and emotional intelligence coaching, detoxification, energy healing, and leadership. Together, they're devoting their lives to the betterment of humanity, the planet, and the animals. Their website is veganwarrioracademy.com. And to reach them, you can go to info at veganwarrioracademy.com. So I don't know if Lisa might put that into the chat box maybe, so you can do that after the call and check it out some more. But yeah, let's get to the questions. Christopher and Sara, we're so happy to have you here and so grateful to you for taking the time to be with us. Now, you have a fascinating story to share, so tell us how you met in Tanzania and began your spiritual journey together. How did that happen?
Wow. Well, thank you so much for having us tonight. It's a pleasure to be on here and sharing this moment with you guys. And so, long story short, we can really drag this out, but we'll give you the brief version. When I was going for my master's degree in 2011, I was feeling really just unfulfilled. I knew I was doing something that everybody else wanted me to do. I was working in the corporate world, climbing the corporate ladder. I was doing all of these things that society really sees you as successful. And it just wasn't for me. And so I decided on a whim that I needed a major life overhaul. It was almost a midlife crisis at the age of 26 years old. And I decided to join the Peace Corps. And so long application process. I got into the Peace Corps, and before I knew it, I was flying halfway across the world to Tanzania, Africa. And for those people that don't know where Tanzania is, it's right below Kenya, right above Mozambique, right on the Indian Ocean. Beautiful place. And so I spent most of my time as a health worker there. I was educating the community about malaria, nutrition, HIV/AIDS. I'd also done some business projects. And I was in a very small rural village. And so I had a lot of time to really go within myself and to really think about all the years that I neglected myself and what did I want to do moving forward? What was my purpose? What was I here to do? And so there was a lot of self-discovery going on. And during that process, I came to a lot of realizations about myself. And about 8 months into my service, I had stumbled across this one. And it was one of the most magical moments of my entire life. And from that moment, in fact, I told my friend I was with 5 minutes after meeting her that she was going to be the girl I was going to marry. And he kind of shrugged it off and said, "Yeah, right." And we got engaged pretty quickly after.
Yes, and the important thing about that is that we were both on the same page to grow collectively, but most importantly, inwardly. And, prior to meeting him, I was already in the Peace Corps in a country called Namibia on the southern west coast of Africa. And I had been asking a lot of those same bigger questions about life and who am I? What am I here to do? So, to find myself from Namibia and Tanzania, it was a tragic event. So it might get a little intense here for a moment, but I became a victim of a violent gang rape, a sexual assault while I was serving in Namibia. And I call it my evolutionary catalyst because up till that point, I was living my life pretty aimlessly. I was just wandering around kind of haphazardly looking for a purpose, kind of pretending like it was just going to fall in my lap, like wrapped in a bow. And I wasn't really paying attention to my internal, or most importantly, the things holding me back. And so having had that near-death experience was actually a blessing in disguise for me because it gave me the slap in the face to realize that, wow, life is precious and it's fleeting and I almost died. What am I going to do with my life? Like, I'm here to help people. I don't know how, but I'm here to do it. And so it really lit a fire under me to take my personal growth even deeper. And I decided to complete my Peace Corps service after some healing, some months of therapy and healing, and they transferred me to Tanzania, and that's where I met him. So, there's a silver lining in everything. But at that point, we were both so ready to take our journey even deeper. And because we were willing to do it together, we became each other's accountability partner. And next thing you know, we're just diving into book after book, studying all kinds of healing modalities that had worked with us in the past and that we wanted to teach to others. And that's where veganism eventually came into.
Well, Sara, thank you for sharing that tragic story with the silver lining, and how wonderful that you were able to come through that dark night of the soul experience and go deeper, as you've said. That's a real model for all of us, for you to do that. That's wonderful. So tell us how you guys did become vegan. Were you vegan then, and if so, why did you become vegan?
Well, there's another story within itself, but of course, this one is
at this point
very interesting.
In Tanzania, at this point, we were not vegan. I had been vegetarian for some time and fell off the bandwagon because it was easier for me to forget and assimilate back into that culture, which is something I've had to process through over the years to remove the guilt from. But he has an interesting story.
So I was not vegetarian before coming to Tanzania. There was plentiful fruits and vegetables living on the equator, so that was a part of the diet, but I still would eat a lot of eggs. The meat, not so much, but still a lot of dairy. And, I was at this point where I was living so primitively, and I was always thought to myself, well, if I'm going to consume these animals, I'm blindly purchasing these items from a grocery store. Why can't I go out and slaughter these animals myself? Why do I have to purchase this blindly? And so I had this really weird moral dilemma there. And so at Christmas one year, my friend who's a Tanzanian had asked me, said, well, would you like to come over for Christmas dinner? And I said, sure. And he said, well, we're having chicken, and that's rare there because they keep their livestock and use them for eggs and everything else. And he said, well, you're going to slaughter the chicken for Christmas this year. I said, what am I going to do? And he's like, you're going to slaughter the chicken for Christmas. And I said, okay. And it really, I thought about it and I went through with it. And it was one of the most traumatic and painful experiences of my life. But again, the silver lining in that was that I decided that I needed a lifestyle change. And we had come home after that and come home to really dive deep into a lot of the documentaries and yeah.
We were pretty strong in our yoga practice as well, and it just didn't make sense to continue practicing Kundalini yoga, to continue practicing meditation, and to keep consuming violence, especially after he had slaughtered that chicken. He suffered from post-traumatic stress from that for like weeks from the experience because it did not go well, if you could say that at all about any slaughter, but it was not an easy kill. And it was something that really traumatized him, and I could feel it. It had stuck in his brain. And so it was just like putting all the puzzle pieces together. When we came home and we had all of the resources available to us to start educating ourselves, it was like, why not educate ourselves? And so we just dove right off the deep end and went vegan essentially overnight after watching Cowspiracy and a few of the other really.
Yeah, it just made total sense at that point, and
There's no going back.
there's no going back,
Oh, right. So it was part of your spiritual journey.
Yes,
It sounds
absolutely,
like
absolutely, very
to
much
go
so.
vegan. I mean,
And we saw
wow.
how both were very
Well,
well
thanks for.
interconnected.
So you kind of led into this. You both have extensive training in a lot of different things. So you came back to the States then and started studying, I think you were saying. And so we talked about, when I was introducing you, herbal medicine, detoxification, life coaching, and other information. So tell us how these methods that you've learned so much about, how can you help us be better activists through some of these forms?
Well, and so we support the vegan on a holistic level, and we see our journey was very holistic, mind, body, soul, and we see all parts interconnected and interrelated, and everything is together. There is no separation from the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And so by training in all of these different healing modalities, we're able to then pick out different parts of the being to be able to assess what part needs healing the most and then bring all of those together into one symbiotic nature to facilitate that healing with that individual.
Absolutely. And, essentially, the detoxification is not just physical, but it's metaphorical as well, ridding yourself of the things no longer serving you to make space for the new experiences, people, and things that are in alignment with your true nature. And with him in herbal medicine, it's more about the subtleties of getting in tune with your body as a vessel, as a tool to indicate to you which parts of you in your internal And that, alongside the life and emotional intelligence coaching, I think that goes without saying that when you start breaking old patterns from old beliefs and start building new patterns, especially with an accountability partner, you get this holistic approach where you continue to see yourself aligning more and more with truth. And it's just a really transformative experience to include it all. We also do the tarot reading and the energy healing, and that's for people to experience what it's like outside of the body, to remember the divine connection that we all do have. It's such a beautiful process.
But, what we decided to do with all of these tools is instead of having them all over the place, we actually put them into a concise 9-step method in which we take our clients through, because we want to make this digestible for everybody else, because obviously it seems like a lot. It is a lot. But putting it into a step-by-step method walks them through this journey, and it's a magical unfolding. And becoming vegan is wonderful for the first few months. It's life-changing, but oftentimes we see deeper. Once the veil has been lifted, we see deeper within ourselves and the places that need healing. And so just because you're vegan doesn't mean everything is perfect right away. So we need to take that healing deeper, and what comes out of that is absolutely tremendous and magical.
Mm-hmm.
So thanks. Do you work with some activists, or is it, or are a lot of people that come to you not vegan and then they become vegan, or is it just kind of various different sorts of folks?
We work with strictly vegans. Our clients through the Vegan Warrior Academy are all vegan. We do have some activists, and
we like to meet each vegan wherever they're at, because we believe that global change happens with the individual. And so some vegans come to us looking for individual happiness and fulfillment, and by proxy, that's going to affect our global vegan utopia we all strive for, because there's another happy, healthy vegan in the world just living their life. Then we have other vegans who come, they want to be more active in their community, whether it's the health approach, the animal approach, what have you. We like to meet them there. And then we have really passionate vegans who are activists, and they typically are dealing with the helplessness, the overwhelm, the shame, the guilt for having waited so long to become vegan, and just the intensity of witnessing such violence. So we get this wide spectrum of vegans in our care, and it goes to show how unique we are in the community as well, and how each person has their role to play in the puzzle, and each puzzle piece is no more important than another, but it's all fitting.
Right, that's so true. And I think a lot of people in our vegan spirituality group have joined partly because of the suffering that we are aware of and constantly aware of every day with every email that comes through and all of the videos we watch and all of that. And it really can weigh on you. And so one thing we've been learning is how important it is to find our own inner peace. And it's like you all are working right on that. And the whole holistic approach is so valuable. So I've looked at your website. It is amazing. And I love how you integrate personal transformation with global change, because it's all kind of happening at once. It kind of needs to, because the world is in trouble and the animals are in trouble and a lot of people are. And so, but you have figured out a way to show how those two things are linked. In order for us to be effective advocates as activists, we need to constantly be working on ourselves and personal transformation. I mean, we're questioning almost everything we've been taught, right? So tell us more about how the transformation works. What you're talking about, using lots of different modalities. And have you got an example maybe of someone and how it helped them deal with the tragedies of animal suffering and all of that?
Yes, absolutely. So, for example, as you mentioned, transformation always starts within the individual. So, what we like to do is help our vegan warrior clients really connect with their body awareness, first and foremost, their present moment awareness. We like to help them connect with becoming the observer of their actions, their thoughts, their beliefs, because that's the very first step, is just noticing without trying to force change, without trying to, dishonor where you're at presently and spiritually bypass where you are just to get to something better. We really honor that moment, and we use pain or fear, any quote unquote negative emotions, as a signal to help guide them deeper into the internal condition that needs healing. A lot of our activists, they come, for example, one of our vegan warrior clients, her dream is to open a pig sanctuary. And it's a beautiful dream that she has painted. And she's recognizing that she has a lot of fear of being ridiculed or looking like she doesn't know what she's talking about, or fear of not being received well by others. And so through this process, we've helped her become more observant of who she is, why she's feeling the way she's feeling, the old beliefs that would cause her to feel the fear in these situations, and help her build new patterns so that she can become more articulate in her speech, more confident, and more active, feeling good about spreading the vegan message. And so a lot of that comes from just the emotional intelligence, the capacity for emotional intelligence. It comes from being courageous enough to dive into one's shadow and admit the parts of you that you may have banished or ostracized out of fear of being rejected at a young age, and reintegrating that whole consciousness. It comes from being connected with one's body and noticing the subtle energies of the spirit and what some might call soul. And just overall, figuring out how to break patterns that are no longer serving you, because we're all conditioned by our societal upbringing. And so oftentimes these beliefs that are really rooted in us have no room anymore. In fact, are just limiting us from growing. But it takes time, it takes patience, it takes practice to even uproot those beliefs, those limiting beliefs, and transform them into something more positive. So, for example, one of her positive shifts was that her opinion is valued first and foremost by herself, and is also valued by those who are ready to receive it. So instead of feeling like she has to force veganism down the throats of people who are clearly not ready to absorb the message, she's learned and created tools to help her gauge who is actually genuinely curious, who is ready to perhaps listen to what she has to say and value her opinion. And, that's just one profound example of the many, but so many of them, it all comes down to one thing: being confident in oneself, in one's beliefs, but also forgiving oneself so that you don't project all of this guilt and shame on others, and anger and all these intense emotions that we so easily pass on to the world. So it's all about that inner transformation, starting with one belief to the next belief to the next, and being patient with yourself. And when he comes in with the detoxification and the herbal medicine, it's like it just forms this complete puzzle to help elevate them to the next level so they can cleanse, rebuild, cleanse, rebuild. But most importantly, it's about them keeping the momentum during the program, but even after, because that's their responsibility.
And keeping, obviously that passion is still there, and we want that passion. That passion is extremely important for our activism. But there's a fine line when hate and anger come into play, because we know what that does. It ruins. There's a lot of infighting within the vegan community. There's a lot of projection outside of the vegan community. And so it's about really finding that balance and finding that harmony within oneself to be able to step up to the plate and become an influential change maker in the
be a resilient change maker at that. Mm-hmm.
And one, it sounds like, that's committed to continuing the inner search, because
Absolutely.
that we've got so many programs that we've got to let go of that seem to kind of bubble up once we have recognized one, then and think, okay, now I've done that one, and then another one starts to bubble up. We didn't even realize we thought.
Yep.
But there it is. And so we tend to have things like anger and grief and all these emotions that seem out of control until we do the work that you're talking about of really within. It's not all about just saving the animals. It's about becoming really competent activists so that we can transform society as well as ourselves. But it all kind of goes together, right?
Absolutely.
It's all one big
Wouldn't you
picture.
say?
Yep.
Yeah. Because you hear people say, "Oh, I'll look within and I'll get peace within and then I'll do some work." But there really isn't time for that. We need to just be with it.
And doing the work gives you the opportunity to continuously go inward. So, there is no, oh, I'll do this and then that, or I'll do this and then that. It's the doing it simultaneously, because if you don't put yourself out of your comfort zone, you're not going to grow. So we always encourage our clients to just push yourself a little bit, not to feel terrified, but to feel slightly fearful, because that's a good sign that you're challenging old beliefs and you're breaking them. It's an ego death, so to speak, and so they can use that experience to bring them deeper into their internal condition, maybe take a break, work on some internal stuff, get back out there, do some more things, maybe take, and it's another thing we do is help people connect with their intuition so that they can gauge when they're acting too much, when they're not acting enough, when they're trusting not enough or not allowing enough, and so it's a nice balance that we try to always strive for.
And we're continuously doing the work within ourselves. I mean, this isn't something that we just learn from textbooks and get certified in and then teach it. We're constantly doing this ourselves on a daily basis. I mean, when I say that, I mean it. And so it's challenging too. And you know what? Our clients are great because they're our mirrors as well. And so it's a wonderful relationship that we have with our clients and the people that we work with, and we just really enjoy that. But not to fool you, we do have our own challenges, and we're continuously doing the work to be able to, again, show up and be that difference in the world. And again, if you're for the animals, if you're for society, if you're for the health, if you're for the environment, whatever you're for, you need to go within first and then come out and really show up in a big way.
I love that. Thanks so much. So one thing we talk about every month, I would say, is how to cope with the grief that we feel, because we're all exposed to that so often, and we have agreed to open up to it, to open our hearts and let them be broken by what we see during this. What are some of the ways that you all would help someone with their grief and help them understand that it's okay to feel joy?
I love that you said it's okay to have a broken heart, essentially, in that moment of grief, because there's a lot of spiritual bypassing that does happen, in our community. It's easier when you feel pain to just automatically go do yoga or do your breathing exercises or think of happy thoughts and forget about it. But what that does, it just pushes it deeper and deeper into the shadow. It builds up more and more until we feel exhausted and don't know why. And so, I'm a big fan of the darkness, having experienced it firsthand and seeing how powerful it really is for being our greatest teacher. And so when we work with our clients, we don't technically advise them. We guide them into their inner wisdom because they have their own perfect solutions. But for the sake of this interview, I would love to share some of the tactics that we use and some of the tactics our clients have come to the conclusion with themselves. Is to first bear witness to the grief. We are a collective whole, and we're witnessing a collective experience together. All parts are important, and so to grieve is to see something so violent, to almost put it in the record of the collective experience. It's so important, but to allow yourself to mourn over it, cry if you need to, let it out, whatever that looks like for you. Get it out, let it be what it needs to be. And there's a certain point where you want to start asking yourself, okay, what is this grief showing me? And that might sound obvious at first, like, oh, well, it shows you that there's violence in the world and it sucks. Like, that's awful. That's the obvious answer, but what's the underlying answer? And so I always ask my clients, what are the underlying needs that are not being met in this moment of darkness? And usually people might find needs such as compassion, unity, world peace, love. Those are needs that are being neglected in that moment. And I always ask them, okay, which of these needs are impossible to fulfill right now? Let's say, for example, world peace. Right now, we can't snap our fingers and the world is just, dancing around a bonfire. It's something that has to happen over time. So they might say something of that sort. Then I would ask them to allow them to mourn that unmet need. What does it feel like to cry over that unmet need, knowing that right now in this moment, it's not going to happen, but to be okay with allowing yourself to trust that it will happen if you continue to trust yourself, continue to build up your community. After they mourn those unmet needs, then I ask them, which of these needs that are not being met can you meet in your immediate reality, your internal reality? What is something you can do to meet those needs for yourself first and foremost? And for everybody, it's different. Like I say, they generate their own perfect solutions. So someone might say, oh, well, you know what? I'm going to buy myself a bouquet of my favorite flowers to remind me that my self-love is a way to feel compassionate. It's a way to lift my spirits. I can see those flowers and remember the animals, because if I love myself, I can show up for the animals. These are just some random examples. It could be something grandiose too, but it can also be something so simple. And after you feel as though you can create action to fulfill these needs, you start to feel automatically more in control of your life. You start to feel more positive and uplifted. But most importantly, then I ask, and this is a hard one, what is the most positive thing you can take away from this grief, from this darkness? And it helps us to shift our perspective from victimization to, okay, and maybe at first someone might say, there is no positive thing. Then I challenge them, if there were a positive thing, if you could imagine a positive thing, just make it up, what would it be? And, for someone it might be like, oh, well, this grief, it is teaching me where I need healing and I'm able to show up better. Maybe someone else might say, oh, well, this grief is inspiring me to become a more passionate activist, and I can channel that passion from the grief into something positive. There's a million different positive things we can take from darkness, but I feel like through this process of sort of transforming this distress into light helps people to remember that we can't control and fix the world with the snap of a finger. And when we do try to control and fix the world, it's usually coming from a place of ego, of fear, of lack of control and helplessness. And so if we can continuously check back in with ourselves and question our why, then what an amazing liberating thing we can do for the world by proxy, just by doing the internal work.
What she said.
Beautifully said, and that was some really great ideas for all of us, I'm sure. So, and I'm betting we've got some questions. Is there anything you'd like to add before we do open up questions?
I would like to add one thing. I would just like to say that, we are a collective whole, and that we need to shift our own consciousness in order to shift the collective consciousness. So what we want fixed in the world must first be fixed within ourselves. That's the basis of this conversation. So again, when we're looking at the bigger picture, it can seem super overwhelming, but all you really need to do is go within, find that inner peace, find that balance. And you may not have it all the time, it may not be perfect, but you know what? Once you start to really get into that, you'll find that your life just opens up in such a magical way. And everything else, as she said, by proxy, gets better and better. And so your activism is stronger and stronger. And you may start to affect more people's lives. You may help more people go vegan because of your newfound perspective on things. So again, once you shift your consciousness, the collective starts to shift, and we will see a global shift that is coming. The golden age is coming, and it's going to take some more time, but we're on the brink of something magical here. And so buckle up, people.
That is so true. Gosh, I mean, you guys are just amazing. I'm just so glad you're with us tonight. Lisa, can you open up questions now? Lisa?
Sure, yes.
There?
That's a
There
great
she
time to do that.
is.
We'll
Yay.
go ahead and open up to see if anyone has any questions. It's been such an inspiring interview. I really appreciate the uplifting tone of your comments, Chris and Sara, and also appreciate some of the depth that you've gone to with sharing about how to manage the darkness when we run into it, which we do stumble upon it as vegans when we're noticing what's going on in the world. Sometimes we may feel like the world is upside down or that we're upside down, and so trying to determine which is which can be part of the process. Oh, let's see. Just want to let everyone know who's joined us. We have several people on the phone. If you've joined us on the phone and you have a question for Chris and Sara, please press *4, and that will unmute you, and you'll be able to speak directly with them. If you're online, there is a little microphone icon that's connected to this program that you've joined us through, and you can click on that, and that will unmute your audio. So you have control of your own audio. If you'd like to join us via video, you can also turn on your video. Now, if you're with us on Facebook Live, then you can post any comments in the feed, and I will go ahead and be sure to share those with Chris and Sara. So right now, I'm just checking. Another way, of course, if you're in the webinar with us, is to type a question in the chat box. That always works. So one person shares, Ilana, that she's so happy to be part of this conversation. And she says she's down to about 10 to 20% of the meat in her diet, and she'd like to get the strength to be 100% vegan. Any suggestions?
Wow. First, we want to congratulate you. What an amazing feat you've accomplished. And, I think it's first and foremost important to congratulate yourself on the progress you've made. Never lose sight of the inches moving forward.
It's all about celebrating those small wins.
And, I would like to say that these answers are different for everyone. What it really comes down to is what resonates with you on a deep inner level. But my personal advice, and I'm sure you might have some as well, for making that full switch is to surround yourself first and foremost with a community that will support you in this move forward, because having a community to support you, having the mentor to support you, having the tools that you can use to support yourself is what's going to help liberate you from anything that's holding you back. But one of the things I think people don't look at is to check your counter commitments. It sounds like you have a goal. It sounds like you have a commitment. You want to inch your way to the vegan lifestyle and make the switch. That's a conscious commitment, but be honest with yourself about the counter commitments. What is underneath the surface that you maybe don't know about yourself? And some good questions you can ask yourself is, what is the possible downside of getting what I want? Or what do I fear might happen if I become fully vegan? And to explore those questions in a playful way, you might have to use your imagination, but this helps you to see how you might unconsciously sabotage yourself from doing what it is that you're doing. This applies to any kind of goal, really. And so that's where those fears and those obstacles, that's where you want to focus on overcoming. But having that community to help support you through that process as you do the internal work, you will find yourself completely liberated if you're willing to stay with yourself and be patient.
Yeah, again, just having that accountability partner always helps. Having that support system, somebody to walk you through that. If you're surrounded by people that are telling you, no, you can't do it, no, you're not going to do this, we don't appreciate you changing your lifestyle, then it's going to be much harder of a lifestyle change to make if you're not around the people that are uplifting you and empowering you to move forward. So, again, you may always have some naysayers or people in your life that don't fully support you, and that's okay, but it's important in this moment in time to do surround yourself with those people that are going to be more uplifting for you on your journey.
Thank you for answering that question. That's a really good one, and also for asking it, Alana. We have another question. It seems like there's some discussion on the live Facebook feed about anger, about whether or not it's helpful to have this kind of anger, if there's this concern about yelling at people, that we don't want to be in that, we don't want to be communicating in that way when we're trying to actually encourage people to go vegan.
Mm-hmm.
So just curious, how do you navigate that feeling of anger? I think that's the question for Chris and Sara.
Well, first, if you would have asked us that maybe years ago when we first became vegan, it would have been a much different answer because we were
angry
vegans. But now we've toned it down a little bit now that we've really gone deep within ourselves. But I'll let Sara take that one because she's the life coach.
So, anger is an interesting thing. I think that people shun anger quite a lot because it's deemed an irrational or negative emotion. But if we take it from the approach that nothing is good nor bad, it's all something to teach us about something, then we kind of remove the stigma that anger carries with it. And so while people might have their opinions on what is better advocacy or activism, being angry or not being angry, we could argue about that until the sun comes up, right? So, but what I like to ask people is, what is that anger doing to you? How is that negatively impacting your internal reality? And if it's impacting your internal reality, which it usually does, people get anxious, they get nervous, they become fearful, they become upset and riled up, maybe even sick. It manifests into the physical as illness. Then I ask, how is that impacting your outer reality? Because it mostly will impact your relationships, the way your temperament, your mood, your personality. So the question is how to use anger to teach you about the things within you do need attention and need. And so I like to use this kind of rule where if I'm feeling an intense emotion, it takes practice, lots of practice, and I'm not always perfect at it, but if I'm feeling an intense emotion, before I express it or before I act on it, I like to give myself space, because it's a biochemical thing that's actually happening in your brain. When you're angry, you're actually not able to think clearly. It's an actual thing that's happening within your brain. I wish I could explain it a little better with science, but it eliminates your ability to reason. So if you can give yourself like 30 seconds to a minute, maybe more, to just, before you say something or act, you start to gain your reason back. You start to be able to think more clearly and act more clearly. But that doesn't mean take away the anger. It doesn't mean throw it away, because clearly you got angry for a reason. And so I like to just invite people to decide in that moment what they feel that anger is purposeful for. And even if they end up lashing out at someone, you can reflect on that later and say, how was that a teachable moment for me? What did that do for me in that moment? Did it do anything positive for the other person? If it didn't, what can I do next time? Or if you would prefer not to let that get to that point, to do the same thing I mentioned with grief, going into the darkness and asking it, mourning it if you need to mourn what's going on, but asking yourself, why are you aligned with that emotion right now? What is it trying to teach you? One of my favorite questions I like to ask people or our clients is, if you could sit down and have coffee or tea with anger, what would it tell you about yourself? And it's incredibly liberating to hear from our different parts, because often it's a different part of our consciousness trying to speak and get attention, and to become that observer, become aware. In my opinion, I like to take a more peaceful approach to communicating with someone about veganism. Years ago, I did not, but I saw myself just running into brick walls. I was trying to force it on someone who wasn't ready to receive the message.
Well, and then also slowing down and taking that minute, you can actually then become more eloquent in the way that you deliver the message to somebody. If it is somebody that maybe is interested in veganism, or you're trying to convince, or it's just planting those little seeds is really what we found the most beneficial approach. Again, every situation is different, so it's hard to tell. Are you in a march? Are you in a it's just all different scenarios, but there's some tactics there that she mentioned that are really, really helpful.
Well, I appreciate your careful and thoughtful approach to almost making a choice about how you want to impact this other person if you're having a dialogue with them, and also noticing and observing how it affects you personally after these interactions. So each time we can learn a little bit more after each interaction. So that's really, really helpful. I'm curious because you two are what I would call a vegan power couple, and I'm wondering how you both work together. How do you do that? So that, for example, I know you mentioned that Sara does the life coach piece, and then I know that Christopher, you help with some of the nuts and bolts and the nutrition and other things. Can you share more about your roles?
Yeah, so we actually developed in regards to our program that we run. Is that what you're asking? So it's interesting. So as we mentioned before, we do have a 9-step method that we have broken down, where we we work with people on 3 or 6 month levels. So with people that are 3 months, we rotate weeks. So the person will work with Sara 1 week, and then me, and then her, and rotating back and forth. Towards the end, then it's more her. But again, we found it to be a really good balance, and people not to feel so overwhelmed with all the changes happening. Because with me, I take on more of a consultant role. We have more casual type conversations about health related things, and it's not just physical health we're talking about. We dive into all parts. But Sara, again, is more asking those really, really deep questions to get people to really connect with themselves, and find this deeper meaning. So yeah, it's an interesting mix, but we found it to work really well, and I mean it's wonderful. We love it, and our clients do too.
That's great. It does sound like a nice balance between both of you, your personalities, but also the types of assistance that you give people. And I think it sounds like a nice balance of intensity, and then something a little less intense to kind of even everything out, and really ask some specific questions about their diet, about their lifestyle, and also look deeply within, which is always people get a little
Scary.
just a little, thank you, a little leery of that. But it's really good. It's really important to do that. And I so appreciate how both of your life experiences have informed what you share with others. So I have no doubt that you're creating all these amazing vegan warriors everywhere. And if anybody wants to become one, you're welcome to contact Chris and Sara. I put their contact information in the chat box if you're with us on the video, on the webinar. And if you're watching on Facebook Live, I included it there. But maybe if you want to take a moment, just share with the folks who are on the phone the best way maybe to reach you.
Yeah, so the best way to reach us, honestly, is just going to our website, veganwarrioracademy.com. We have all our Facebook link to our Facebook page. We have a Facebook community called the Vegan Warrior Community. We have a lot of people in there sharing their personal development struggles, their mind, body, soul struggles, their challenges, and then also their wins and their successes. And it's a really tight-knit community we've created. We just got done with a free workshop that we ran in there. So we're always doing our best to support that community. And we just launched a digital course because we can't take on everybody. We can't possibly coach every single person. So we just launched it's called Vegan Warrior Mastery Digital Course. We're still making a few little tweaks, but most of the, it's on the website. You can check it out at veganwarrioracademy.com. But again, just to get a hold of us, go to our website, or again, info@veganwarrioracademy.com is great too.
Wonderful. We have another question I'd like to ask you, and this one, it relates to folks who are trying to transition to a vegan diet, and then there are all of these plant-based meat alternatives that are actually might have some ingredients in them that aren't what we might call health food. So I'm wondering, what would you suggest for making that transition, but also making it in a healthful way?
Well, I think that depends on each person. I think those meats definitely have a role to play. I wouldn't say ban them completely. Yes, for myself, I don't consume them just because we eat whole food vegan, so we don't even consume oil. We're pretty health conscious vegans. But in regards to the processed meat or the vegan meats. They do have a lot of oil and a lot of definitely questionable ingredients. But if you are making the switch and you find that that's the easy route, then I recommend that, honestly, because it is almost better than the alternative where you're not taking an animal's life for the food on your plate. However, as you move throughout this journey, and when we catch the vegan, and the reason we add detoxification and we call the step wipe the slate clean in our program is because so many of us have had so much toxic buildup from what I call our past lives. And there's also a lot of junk food vegans out there that are eating a lot of this processed stuff, and this is causing a lot of stagnation in the lymphatic system. It's causing a lot of stagnation in the body, and we want to get those energy centers flowing properly, where we can start to actually think clearly, so it actually goes right into the emotional piece of it. But for someone that's transitioning, again, I think those things are okay, but you definitely want to have some sort of balance as well. You definitely want to incorporate the fruits and veggies, and I know it can seem overwhelming, but start with a few simple meals every single week and move from there. They don't have to be these extravagant meals. And again, you really will become an amazing foodie, more so than ever after you dive into this lifestyle. But take your time with it. It's a process. It's step by step. You don't have to kill yourself.
Great. Well, thank you. And do you happen to have any specific recipe blogs for those whole foods, plant-based alternative meals?
As far as blogs, so what we like to do is, and I can't think of any off the top of my head because we have the Plant Pure Cookbook, which we love. That's a great one. We actually created our own little digital cookbook, which we don't really advertise. We give to our vegan warrior clients to start cooking some whole food vegan meals. But if you take any of the meals, if you wanted to do whole food vegan, you could simply do oil free by just cooking with vegetable broth. We cook everything and saute everything with vegetable broth if you wanted to do no. So we kind of just take any recipe that has oil and supplement it with that. And she is the cook, man. I can cook pretty well, but she is amazing cook. So, just oil-free dressings galore. You can just Google that, and they're incredible. You do not need oil to really thrive.
And as for if it's, I think T. Colin Campbell said this, if your grandmother or great grandmother wouldn't find it in growing in her backyard, it's probably something you don't want to eat too much of, if at all. So, we're not 100% whole food vegans 100% of the time. Like we like our tofu, which is considered processed. We like the mildly processed ingredient here and there when we gather with friends, we have a good time. It's about intuitive eating too. It's about knowing what nourishes your body in that moment and why. And that's really empowering because then it takes this blame off of you, thinking like, oh, I'm doing something wrong. I'm eating something bad for me. It helps you to gauge, build that body, mind, body, heart, body, soul connection once again. There is one really good blogger I want to give a shout out to. I believe she refers to herself as Soul in the Raw.
Marina.
And Marina, Soul in the Raw, RAW, and she does a lot of wonderful oil-free, healthy, high vibratory food recipes. She's a great blogger. And there's more that we could probably think of, but she's the first one that came to my mind.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for addressing that. And anyone who has more questions, they can contact you directly. I mean, through your website or the contacts that you just mentioned. So it's really my pleasure to say how grateful we are to have you as part of this webinar, but also as part of our vegan community. I just am so excited about what you both are here to offer, and I hope lots of people connect with you and learn more about themselves in the process. It's such a wonderful balance of health and mental wellness and just overall vibrancy.
Thank you so much for having us. And I do want to mention, we had our first vegan spirituality meeting in Boston last night.
Was it last night?
It was Tuesday night. Wow, I can't even remember the days. But anyways, it went amazing. We had a great turnout. Everybody was having a great time, and we're just happy to be a part of the vegan spirituality community.
Ooh, well, thank you for mentioning that. We are thrilled also to know that we have, for those who don't know, we have different organizers who run these vegan spirituality groups in different areas of the country. And actually, Chris and Sara are running our group in Boston. And it's really their group because they kind of orchestrate each group based on their own skills and talents and who's in the community. So I really hope that you will find them and attend these groups locally. It sounds like they're lots of fun. And if you want to find the group or any group in the country, you can go to veganspirituality.com. On that page, there is a little link for groups, and you'll see Chris and Sara's group. I think, did you do it on Meetup or also on Meetup?
Yeah,
so you can also
we'll create a Facebook page eventually. We got so many projects happening, but it is on Meetup, and we're staying on that platform, so there will be updates all the time on when new meetups are happening and all that. So you can find all the updates there.
And once again, you can also join our Vegan Warrior community Facebook, where we also share those updates, but it's not limited to only Boston people. It's for everyone, and we just have a great time on personal development and our vegan lifestyle. So we'll see you there.
Yeah, sounds like fun. Well, I know Judy and I are both thrilled that you've joined us. If you'd like to, we have a little tradition that our guests sometimes will lead a closing prayer for us. I'm wondering if you might want to do that for us this evening.
Yeah.
Do we have a couple minutes to do perhaps a powerful visualization for vegan utopia?
Yes, we can.
Wonderful. So this just could take a couple minutes. Visualizations are a little bit different than meditation in the sense that your mind is active and you allow yourself to tap into your imagination, sort of like becoming that child once again, checking your practicality, your rationality at the door. There's no room for or a chance to just connect with you. So I would like to collectively, all of us, enter a visualization for a powerful, beautiful vegan utopia. So if you could just close your eyes, take a couple deep breaths to center yourself. And allow to take yourself inward, setting the intention to enter the space of a vegan utopia. If you could wave a magic wand or snap your finger and create a vegan utopia right now, what would that look like? And allow yourself to step into that mental experience, first checking with yourself. Who are you in this vegan utopia? What is the state of your internal condition? Are you happy, smiling, healthy, fit, connected in community? See yourself from the inside, see yourself from the outside. Remember, you don't have to worry about what's possible. You don't have to worry about what makes sense. You get to let yourself fully live in this magical experience of a vegan utopia. Feel the energy swirling around through yourself, and then start to look at your environment. Who's with you in this vegan utopia? Who do you see? Which loved ones? What's their state of being? Are they healthy, happy, and whole? See how this impacts the people around you. Where are you in this vegan utopia? What does Mother Earth look like in this vegan utopia? Imagine her pristine nature back to the way it was intended. The beautiful flowing oceans and overabundant growing forests and mountains just full of trees and rivers and streams. Back to her original self, Mother Earth. And what do you see for the animals in this vegan utopia? Where are they? Where do they get to spend their lives? How do they feel? In this vegan utopia, what do these animals get to do throughout their daily lives? How do we interact with the animals? How do you interact with these animals? And you can just envision this entire environment as pristine and clear as possible. What do you hear? What do you see? What do you smell? What do you taste? What kind of foods are you eating in this perfect world? There's equality, no societal oppression. Everybody is strong in their mind, body, soul connection. But allow yourself to play. Create your own personal vegan utopia. And as you take a couple of breaths to steep in the awareness of this energy of this vegan utopia, I want you to notice, where do you feel it in your body? Where does the energy come to life in your physical vessel now? Perhaps it's in your chest or your stomach. Maybe you feel it in all of your limbs. Connect with that sensation and ask yourself, what is a metaphor that can capture the essence of the energy of that sensation? Feel the physiological shift that happens within your body in this mental experience of a vegan utopia. And by connecting these two, this vegan utopia mental experience with the physical sensations in your body, you have now created a new state of being. You have changed. You have started to shift old patterns into new ones. You've created a physical change and shift. And from this state of being, your subconscious and conscious thoughts, emotions, actions, behavior will all stem from this new state of being, allowing you to align with this vegan utopia, experiences that will guide you to transform continuously so that we all align with this vegan utopia and finally manifest it into our physical reality. And this is something that you can do for yourselves every morning, at lunch, at night, something to help you revisit the bigger picture of what we're all here to do and create that state of being necessary to guide you every day through each challenge, through each success, continuing to become the observer and make this vegan utopia happen, because it is possible.
Well, thank you so much. That was a very impactful visualization. I love the name, the Vegan Utopia. So if you're with us, if your eyes were closed, feel free to open them and rejoin the webinar as we do our final closing, and take with you this amazing visualization, this wonderful intention and prayer for our future. So thanks to both of you for joining us, and thanks to Judy for being our co-host. And I'm so excited that you're part of our community. This is wonderful. There's many hearts and minds to open and to connect with. So I have no doubt that you will be a big part of this vegan transformation coming forward in the next few decades. So many blessings to you.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Thank you.
Thank you. Have
Well,
a beautiful
everyone,
night.
oh, I will now. And our hope is that everyone else enjoys their evening. We hope that you take what you gain from today, and that it deeps within your soul, and that you can it's a gift for you for the next week of awareness. So thanks to everyone for joining us. We hope that you can join us again. We do these gatherings once a month on the second Thursday of every month. So tune in for the next one. Meanwhile, take care and have a wonderful evening. Good night, everyone. Thanks to Chris and Sara.
Good night, everybody.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.